Welcome to the Berman Golf Podcast, where we're helping golfers over the age of 60 increase distance off the tee so that they can hit shorter irons into the green. Yeah, baby. You can visit us at bermangolf.com for more information and get ready. This is going to be a fun one. Moving forward, tell us some fun stuff. I know you've got a ton of stories, a ton of things that you've witnessed over the years. I don't know how many of them you can tell us explicitly, but you've had the opportunity to work with 90-year-old Bob, who cannot hit a ball out of his own shadow, to some of the ladies on tour. What is something that you think that our demographic, the older golfer, really needs to be focusing on, where they come in focusing on club head speed when they really should be focusing on what?
A couple things come to mind. First thing would be that most people that come in are focused on hitting everything from a tee box to green, meaning they're going to focus on driver first and they're going to get to wedges and putter last, and from a fitting standpoint of what they book with us. And whenever I come into contact with someone, whether it be at an event we're doing, whether it be at a club that I'm playing at, and just get introduced to somebody that's interested in our process or our services, I always recommend that iron fitting and putter fitting are my top two, right? Wedges always goes kind of along with irons, so that typically is done alongside that. But the reason I would say that iron fitting is going to carry the needle more than a driver, and I have thousands, tens of thousands of stories like this, where a person comes in for a driver, they have a successful time. Meanwhile, what do they warm up with? Hey, go ahead and get warmed up. They warm up with an iron, right? So in my head, I'm always kind of looking at that, as I should be, being an expert in my field, of like, if they do come back for another appointment, I want to also be a step ahead, right? I want to know what this gentleman or what this lady is dealing with in that category of their bag, right? But typically with how populated your irons, wedges are, with how often you're using a putter, right? Those are going to populate so much of your scorecard in the strokes you have, right? You can give someone 25 yards in driver distance, and that might not actually yield them a stroke lower in their score, right? It sometimes can, and I would say that it's 50-50 depending on where someone's playing, what they need, what they don't need. But there is a lot more times than not where someone gains 20 yards in a driver fitting and their golf score doesn't go down, right? And so that pretty much outlines to you that your execution from the fairway to the green is really the whole problem of your game, and that the 20 yards just gave you one club or two clubs less that you can still miss the green with, right? And a lot of it is course management, right? A lot of it goes back to they don't know the distances they have and some things like that. But I would say, like, getting fit for a great set of irons is going to get your greens in regulation up, which is one of the most deciding stats every week on tour. It's very hard to finish really bad in the field or not top 10 if you're leading or top 5 in greens and reg, right? Because then the putting that you then are using anyway, the most of any club in the bag, you're using that a lot, whether you're playing bad golf or good golf, right? So it's very easy, if you have the resources we do, to get you fit and tailored for a proper putter, not only just in the head size you need, whether it's a mallet or a blade, but also the correct offset, the correct loft and lie, the correct weighting. A lot of putters now have adjustable weights, and I will always give my clients multiple weights to have at their course up north versus down here, because grasses are different. If they play morning versus afternoon, it's going to change. Just even down here, a lot of times, if they're a year-round player, you're going to putt with a heavier putter in the summer than you are in the winter. You should be using a lighter putter when the greens are a little slicker down here. and you should be putting a little more weight in your putter when the greens are going to be more like a 9.5 in the summertime. And that way you're not having to change and tweak your stroke, which is one of the hardest things to do and can get you into a lot of bad habits. And you can feel like you're going to make that same stroke and get a similar result. So I would say like the end all be all for most golfers is figure out your irons, wedges, and putter before you do the driver. And number two, make sure that you are looking at the things that are important like a tour player does, which is they're going to look at how many greens and what their conversion is way before they ever look at where they stand in driver distance, right? I mean, there's people like Zach Johnson that wins the Masters. I mean, Colin Morikawa, right? Like think of how popular that name is on tour for the PGA. Seeing him at the AT&T a few years ago, seeing him at the Farmers a few years ago, being able to see him hit balls in person, look at numbers. He's just not really that long of a guy. And he's a very short guy in relationship to a lot of the guys that are dominating out there. And yet he figures out a way to be ridiculously effective. How does he do that? He outball strikes almost everyone out there with irons. And his greens and regulation is so consistent week to week that he doesn't really have to be that great of a driver. He doesn't really have to feel that much pressure on the putter, right? I do believe that if he putted a little bit better is where you would see him win a lot more. I don't believe that comes from hitting the driver longer, right? So it's like, those are the things that I look at deeply, especially when I can talk on a level to those players that I may have to not do so much with the 30 handicap or the 20 handicap, you know? But if you give me the ability to say which one do I feel more passionate about when they do gain or succeed, it's definitely the 90 shooter. You know, I love working the pros, male and female, I've been able to be around has been untestament to my success and my ability to give people the latest and greatest on what matters and what the focus is. But there's nothing like someone that shoots 92 on average, and in 18 months, they're a 12 or a 10 or a 13, right? Because they just don't believe that they're going to ever shoot 82 when you shoot 92 to 96 every day, right? And so that's one of the things I'm super excited about with Berman Golf is that I believe some of my people that I would use the word are stuck in where they're at after I have given them multiple sets of clubs and really know their game, not just fit them and dismiss it, but like I've played golf with most of my clients. I've really followed up with a lot of them. I know the courses they play. I know what shortcomings they're going to have at those courses because I've played them as well. And I really feel like the better they can move, the better they can feel confident about what they're doing from the top down, the better the club's going to perform, and also the longer the club's going to last, right? So I'm excited about that partnership and how the relativity of what we both do is going to matter going forward.
That's great. That is a lot. So
I know. This is definitely the pod where like your listeners need to probably go back and note take a few times.
Yes.
But it's hard to just kind of condense the questions.
Yes, I think it's great. Everything that you said. The challenge that a lot of my clients have is they're not able to reach the green in regulation because they got some type of wood in their hand. Mm-hmm. So it's usually 3 for a par 4 to just get there.
Yeah.
So giving them the extra 20 yards gives them just the chance. However, having the chance is not good enough because, again, if you got a chance, but you can't do it anyways, the 20 yards was irrelevant. So I think that that's a great note to take because, okay, let's say we do have a great drive off the tee. I don't have a wood in my hand. I've got an iron in my hand. You get up there and you chunk it.
Correct.
You chunk it because you're not moving the right way.
Correct.
Or you're not confident in your ability to get there. If you don't have confidence in the club that's in your hand, what do? You do something that you shouldn't do. Most of the time for the male golfer, it's you swing a little bit harder. Mm-hmm. That never ends well. Mm-hmm. Never ends well. So it leads to this downward spiral of nothing going in the right direction. And ultimately, what we want to do is we want to switch from being a defensive player to an offensive player.
Love that.
And the way that you can do that is by gaining confidence with the tool in your hand. Okay, we've got a decent drive off the tee. Now I have a chance at hitting that green in regulation. I got this club in my hand. Can I do it? That's where everybody goes wrong, because now you're a defensive player. When you get up and you're going to hit a ball with defensive thoughts, I just don't want to hit it to the left. There's water over there. I don't want to hit it short to the right because there's a trap over there. You never commit. And the analogy I like to give is a downhill skier in the Olympics. There's not a single downhill skier in the Olympics that doesn't have 100% confidence that they are going to perfectly execute every single cut on that slope. Because if they even have a glimmer of doubt, it's disastrous because you don't commit. Your brain is hesitant. You don't get 100% commitment.
Yes.
So the same thing's true on the golf course, meaning that if I have a bomb drive on a short par 4 and I've got a wedge in my hand for my approach shot, I walk up to that ball differently. I've got a swag about me. I'm loose. I'm like, hell yeah, I am attacking that pin. I am going to stick it right there. Hopefully I don't put too much backspin on it, and I'm going to destroy this hole. And more often than not, I actually execute that shot versus when I have a long par 4, crappy drive off the tee, barely stayed in bounds. Okay, now I've got a rescue in my hand for a par 4. I'm going, please just give me a chance. And I do a completely different swing for that shot than when the wedge is in my hand. And the statistics show that 25% of the time, it's okay.
Yeah.
It might not be on the green, but it's okay. 75% of the time, I chunk it, I thin it, I slice it right out of bounds. I just do something different because I didn't have the confidence going into it.
Yeah.
It's like, what the heck? So I think that at the end of the day, when you have confidence in your ability to reproduce a certain result over and over again, that alone is going to give you a chance at a better golf score. That alone is going to give you a better chance at more enjoyment, especially for our aging golfer. They just don't enjoy the game anymore. I had a horrible round. Okay, how about this? What about if you never hit a drive off the tee, but you shoot in the 80s? They say the same thing. Rounds suck today. Right? So there's this egotistical component of it.
It's everything.
Where you've got to have the entire game. So it's not always about the score. It's about the ego and the score coming together to where I bombed it off the tee and I won the skins game today.
Yeah. Yeah. And it goes, I think you see it from honestly every perspective. Like, I mean, I think a lot of amateurs think that those thoughts don't go through professionals' heads, right? I mean, everyone battles with it. It's just in different ranks and different formats of what they consider good and bad. I think a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, when you saw how John Rahm, going back to him, and how he ended last year, how he started this year is just amazing. I mean, the guy is on absolute fire, right? And he comes in and just has a terrible 2 rounds in this tournament back over at the Farmers. And it just shows like it's not just week to week easiness of carrying it. The guy is an incredible ball striker. He's an incredible person. You know, I've gotten a chance to be around him in years past. Awesome guy. Has a very compelling, very deep rooted confidence that he wants to break the major record, right? He wants to break records that people say are unbreakable, right? I love greatness. I've always been attracted to it in all sports. So in the golf space, I definitely like golfers that are intentional about what they're trying to do. But there is a sense, even to John's level, where you can see, like you just talked about, where when he gets a mindset that's drifting off of what he wants the outcome to be, he will get into stretches of bad holes, missed putts, missed greens, wrong club, maybe forcing a tee shot where he could take a 3-wood or a 2-iron and hit a different shot than a driver. Those are all systematic similarities to the average golfer that is trying to force a shot. Or even better, what no one on this podcast wants to hear, how about you move up a set of tees, right? Like, it blows my mind how someone's okay hitting hybrids and fairways into a green, and the only reason that they do it is because Don, Larry, and Jimmy are going to make them feel some type of way if they move up, right? Like, that's the whole entirety of the handicap system, is so that you can go plus or minus tee boxes at any course in the world and be able to play with the group that you're with. So by virtue of just ego and pride, you're going to try to make somebody feel like they can't move up when you know they need to. By the way, that's the whole group knows the guy needs to, but they won't allow him to feel comfortable and confident, going back to confidence and the importance of that, giving him a 7-iron or an 8-iron into a green. You want him to still bash 5-wood and cut it into the bunkers and have to have a Nick Faldo short game 300 days of the year to try to be a 15, right? Like, I mean, there's a lot of things that are misery to me. That is one of them, right? And it's just, I don't know why it is so taboo to not be acknowledged to move up a tee box, right? I think the ladies in golf do a lot better with it. I think the men have a long way to go.
I'm sitting here squirming in my chair as you tell that story, because it just happened to me this summer where I was on a roll. I don't get to play during season. You know, we're grinding.
Very similar. Yeah.
We're grinding it out. So when the summer first starts, I'm usually lucky to break 100. And then as the summer goes on, I get better and better and better and better and better. And by the end of the summer, I'll be in the 80s.
Of course.
So we're at the end of the summer this year and shooting in the 80s. And 2 of my buddies invited me to go play Collier's Reserve.
Okay.
Very nice course.
Yep.
And they're great golfers. They're scratch golfers.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing from the tips.
Mm-hmm.
I've never played from the tips on a really nice golf course.
Mm-hmm.
Right out of the gate, just absolute blow up. Mm-hmm. And it was the least amount of fun that I had had the whole entire summer. Did not break triple digits. I think I was a 110. I have it written down on my phone. And I'm going, what the heck? I went out the very next day, went over to the Biscuit, played the Biscuit, and shot 88. And I'm going, oh, I'm so pissed because I played the right tees at the Biscuit.
Yeah.
I didn't play the tips.
Yeah.
I was comfortable with that course because I played it all summer and just had a great time. Shot an 88, left a bunch of strokes out there because I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah.
But the point of it is, the ego got in my way. I could have very easily said, hey man, I'm just going to play from the whites up here.
Yeah.
And they might have busted my balls for a hole, but
Exactly.
It's like, hey, I paid a lot of money to be here.
Exactly.
I want to have fun too.
Yeah.
But it's hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to do.
And it goes back to the confidence, right? I mean, think of the lack of confidence you have before you even take a tee shot, right? I mean, it's just extremely, extremely mental on yourself, but it's also just going to affect the way you go for that week, for that month. I mean, people can hold on to stuff for a long time, as we know, right? The human component really battles us in something like golf, but it just goes to show, like, I mean, every person that I know that I've had the conversation with that has really talked to their golf group and has made that change, they instantly, now let's be clear, they do not go down in score right away, but their enjoyment factor, their anxiety level, their feeling of being able to perform, having the chance to perform and hit greens is 100% through the roof. And that goes back to the same confidence you have when you pull a club out of the bag. If you are pulling a driver out of the bag that's built off the rack right now, okay, the average golfer we fit's 5'9". The average driver is 45 3/4.
Pay attention to this, guys.
Okay.
This is really important.
The average tour player's driver is 44 3/4. So it's an inch short. Why would the tour player play an inch short? Because their number one focus is quality of contact. That supersedes any 2-3 mile an hour loss in length. And by the way, someone like me, I've been a scratch golfer since I was 14. I'm 33. I play 44.5 and I swing a 45.5 driver the exact same speed. So someone like me, I have no effect to length. So all the stuff you read that's marketed, that's, quality, advised by Butch Harmon or someone else that has a huge following, that is not a blanket statement. You have to start looking at stuff that it is based on specific individuals. Absolutely. Blanket statements do not work in the golf industry. There is nothing that is uniform that will always work. I have to go about my job every day differently. 76 mile an hour man, 76 mile an hour man, both the same height, deliver the club totally different. They're going to need different lengths, different lies, different lofts, different club heads, and different shafts. That includes weight, by the way. So they might be 76. One guy's using 55, other guy's using 70. They both optimize, right? So the length of a club can dramatically affect your confidence. The weight of a club can dramatically affect your confidence. So the idea that you're spending $50, $100, $200, $300, $1 million in golf a year in one of the most beautiful places in the world, and you don't have $3 to $6 grand invested in your bag, that, by the way, lasts 6 to 10 years if you really want to play it out, and you do it right, and you have all of the worry out of your mind that when you pull your sand wedge and you walk into a bunker, that the thin or the heavy or the chili dip or the blade over the green into the water, that's out of your brain. You're executing based on the fact that your swing is your swing, your body's your body, and you're hoping that you can consistently put some work into it through what you offer, through what I offer, through maybe what their pro offers, to get an idea of how to better your identity as a player. And that's really it, right? I mean, that's what everybody should be doing. That's what everyone pretty much knows they should be doing. And then it's just a matter of what team are you formatting around you to do it.
I love this. Oh my gosh, we've got to talk about this. We're going to go back. Thank you very much for tuning in this week. For more information, please go to bermangolf.com. That's B as in boy, ERMAN, bermangolf.com, and check out a ton of stuff that we have there. Or even better, go to our socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. We're even on TikTok. Check us out everywhere. We've got tons of content going out every week. And please give us a thumbs up. Comment on the videos. Let me know what your questions are. Try to shoot holes in this. I'll do whatever I can to help you out the best that I can. Thank you, guys.